don't think I'll ever forget the sound of his laugh that night. It was the same one he used when we were kids. Loud, careless, the kind that said he'd won again. My brother, Ryan, had always been the golden one. The one my parents bragged about at dinner parties. The one who could mess up and still land on his feet. Meanwhile, I was the practical one. The one who worked 2 jobs through college. Who never asked for help. Who somehow became the family's walking wallet once I made it. So when he called me last week and said, "Hey, let's grab dinner, just the 2 of us," my treat this time, I'll admit I was surprised. It had been years since Ryan offered anything that didn't come with strings attached. He picked the place, one of those downtown restaurants with soft jazz, dim lighting, and prices that made your throat tighten before you even opened the menu. When we sat down, he grinned and said, "Don't worry, we'll split it evenly. You know, like adults." He said it in that joking tone, but I caught the look in his eyes. The same one that used to flicker when he borrowed money from my wallet as a teenager. I smiled and said, "Sure." The waitress came over, and Ryan immediately ordered a $90 steak and a bottle of wine. I asked for soup and water. He raised an eyebrow. "That's it? Come on, live a little." I just shrugged. Not hungry. Truth was, I'd seen this trick before. He'd done it to our cousin at a family lunch last year, bragging about splitting evenly after ordering the most expensive thing on the menu. When the check came, he'd leaned back, smirking, while everyone else quietly chipped in more than their share. So this time I was ready. Dinner went about as expected. Ryan talked, mostly about himself. His business ventures, his network, how he was this close to landing a deal that would make him rich. He mentioned his new car, his new watch, his new girlfriend, who by his description sounded like she didn't know he was still living off credit cards. Every so often he'd toss me a line like, "You're lucky you've got that boring, stable job. Must be nice knowing where your next paycheck comes from." And every time, I'd just smile, because I knew something he didn't. Halfway through the night, while he was bragging about how he'd found a way to expense dinners like this to business networking, I quietly excused myself to use the restroom. Instead, I went up to the counter, handed the waitress my card, and said, "Can you ring me up for just my order? The soup and water. I'll take care of the tip too." She smiled like she understood exactly what was going on. "Of course," she whispered, tapping the screen. When I came back, Ryan was swirling his wine glass like he was in a commercial. The check arrived not long after, tucked neatly inside one of those black leather folders. He opened it, glanced at the total, and chuckled. $214, not bad. We'll just split it down the middle." I leaned back in my chair, pretending to scroll through my phone. "Oh, I'm good," I said casually. "Already paid, for my part." The smile froze on his face. He looked up, blinking. "What?" "Yeah," I said. "I paid for my soup. And the tip. We're square." The silence between us stretched. For a moment I thought he'd laugh it off, make some joke about me being cheap. But then his jaw tightened. "You're serious?" "Completely." He dropped his napkin on the table, the way he always did when he was angry but trying to act calm. "You know, this is exactly why no one likes going out with you. You make everything a statement." I met his glare and said softly, "No, Ryan, you just don't like when people stop letting you take advantage of them." He scoffed, grabbed his card and flagged down the waitress. "Fine, I'll pay. It's just money." But his voice cracked halfway through. When she walked away, he muttered, "You think you're better than everyone now?" "No," I said. "Just tired of pretending we're equal when we're not." That was the last thing either of us said for the rest of the night. We walked out into the cold December air, the city buzzing around us, and for once, I didn't feel guilty. Not for setting a boundary, not for walking away first, but as I drove home, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Why did you make Ryan pay for everything? He said you embarrassed him." And that's when I realized this wasn't over, not by a long shot. By the next morning, my phone looked like a Christmas tree, blinking with notifications I didn't want to open. Mom had sent 4 texts, Dad 2, and even Aunt Cheryl had chimed in with a long paragraph about how money shouldn't come between family. Ryan had clearly been busy. I sat at the kitchen counter, coffee in hand, scrolling through the messages one by one. Mom, your brother said you made a scene at dinner. What's going on? Dad, you know he's struggling financially. You could have just helped out quietly. Aunt Cheryl, honey, you know Ryan's got a good heart. Maybe he just expected you to be the bigger person. The bigger person. That phrase had been my family's favorite way to guilt me since childhood. When Ryan wrecked my first car, be the bigger person. When he borrowed my laptop and sold it, be the bigger person. When he insulted my fiancé at our engagement party because he looked broke, you guessed it, be the bigger person. I stared at the group chat and realized something. They didn't actually want peace. They wanted silence. My silence? So I typed a short reply. Ryan invited me to dinner, said we'd split the bill. He ordered steak and wine. I ordered soup. I paid for my part. That's all. I hit send. Within seconds, the typing bubbles popped up. Mom, it's not about money. It's about family respect. Ryan, unreal. You always twist things to make me look bad. Me. Then maybe stop doing bad things. That shut the chat down fast. I put my phone face down and exhaled. For once, I didn't care if they were angry. I'd spent years apologizing for things I didn't do, covering his bills, his lies, his tantrums, all while he played the poor, misunderstood son. Not anymore. Later that afternoon, my fiancé Ethan came home from work. He saw the phone still buzzing on the counter and raised an eyebrow. Your family again? I nodded. Yep, the Ryan Defense Squad. He chuckled, poured himself coffee and said, Want me to block them for you? Tempting, I said, smiling faintly. But not yet. I want to see how far they'll go this time. That night, I got my answer. Ryan posted a long rant on Facebook, classic move, about how some people think money makes them better than their own blood. He didn't name me, but everyone knew. Within minutes, the comments rolled in. Don't let it get to you, Ryan. Some people forget where they came from. You're too good for drama. I just laughed. Because while Ryan was busy fishing for sympathy online, I was looking at something else, my phone's banking app. 3 months ago, Ryan had asked to borrow $500 until payday. Payday never came. And I'd written it off as a loss. But I'd also helped him set up his online banking a few years back. Same login, same weak password he'd used since high school. I wasn't planning on doing anything illegal, of course, but I was curious. So I logged in, and what I saw made my stomach drop. He wasn't struggling. He was lying. He had over $7,000 in his account, not from work, but from borrowed money. Small transfers, here and there, from family members, old friends, even Mom. He was living off sympathy. And that's when it hit me. The struggling little brother act wasn't just about pride. It was his business model. Ethan came over when he saw my face. What happened? I turned the screen toward him. He whistled low. Wow, guess he's not so broke after all. I nodded. Remember how he said he'd pay me back when he gets his next check? This is his check, all of it. Ethan hesitated. You're not thinking of... I smiled. No, nothing dramatic. Not yet. But that night I couldn't sleep. Every memory, every favor Ryan had taken came flooding back. The time he used my credit card for gas just once. The time he guilted me into covering his rent. The time he ruined Christmas by demanding I help out with gifts he never bought. I thought about Mom's text. It's not about money. But to them, it always was. Money, attention, control. It was all the same thing. By morning, I'd made up my mind. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to post a rant. I was going to do what I'd always done. Quietly, calmly, surgically. I pulled up his account again, opened the transfer tab, and smiled. I wasn't taking anything that wasn't mine, just reclaiming what I'd lent him, and making sure he learned something about splitting evenly. The cursor blinked on my screen like a heartbeat. A simple box asked, transfer amount? I typed in $500, the exact amount Ryan borrowed until payday. No interest. No late fee, just closure. I hovered over confirm transfer for a long moment, half expecting guilt to creep in. It didn't. I hit send. A small notification popped up, transfer successful. It was clean, quiet, and poetic. Everything his dinner stunt wasn't. For a second, I just sat there, sipping my coffee, feeling the tiniest surge of satisfaction. Not revenge, just balance. By noon, Ryan must have noticed because he called 3 times. I ignored the first 2, but on the third, curiosity won. "Hey," I answered as if nothing happened. His voice came in hot, all faux outrage and sputtering. "Did you just take money from my account?" I smiled even though he couldn't see it. "I didn't take anything. I reclaimed the loan you promised to pay back 3 months ago." "You can't just... That's illegal," he snapped. "Illegal?" I said. "Like using my Netflix login for the last 2 years? Or Mom's credit card for gas? You sure you want to go down that road, Ryan?" There was silence, a thick, heavy kind. Then in a lower tone, he said, "You think you're better than me now, huh?" I sighed. "No, Ryan, I just stopped being worse for you." Click. He hung up. 10 minutes later, the group chat reignited. "Mom, why did you take money from your brother?" "Ryan, she hacked my account." "Aunt Cheryl, sweetheart, please return it before things get worse." I simply replied, "That was the $500 he borrowed." The same $500 everyone told me to forget. Now it's forgotten. No one responded after that. Not a word. That evening, Ethan and I went out for dinner. Nothing fancy, just a small Italian place we loved. Halfway through the meal, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't family. It was a message from Dad. "You could have handled this privately. You embarrassed your brother." I showed Ethan the text, rolling my eyes. He chuckled. "You didn't embarrass him. He did that all on his own." But Dad's message lingered in my head on the drive home. Embarrassed him? Maybe. But sometimes people need to feel embarrassed to finally stop taking advantage. When we got home, I noticed something odd. Our shared family Netflix account had logged out. Then Disney Plus, then Spotify, then even the family Wi-Fi password suddenly didn't connect. Ryan was trying to cut me off. I burst out laughing. "Ethan," I said between giggles. "He just changed the Wi-Fi password. Like I'm desperate to stream through his account." Ethan grinned. "Guess it's his way of declaring war." "Oh, he can declare whatever he wants," I said, still laughing. "But he forgot one thing." Ethan tilted his head. "What's that?" "I'm the one who pays for all of those." "That's right. 2 years ago, Ryan begged me to help him manage the subscriptions. He didn't have a credit card with a good enough limit, so I set up everything under my account and linked his devices. All of it, the Wi-Fi, Netflix, Disney Plus, even Hulu, ran through me. So I walked over to my laptop, sat down, and began changing passwords one by one. Netflix, logged out all devices. Disney Plus, new PIN. Spotify, new login. Wi-Fi router reset. By the time I finished, it was past midnight, and I knew Ryan's entire entertainment world had just gone dark. At exactly 12:14 a.m., my phone buzzed again. "Ryan, what the hell did you do?" "None of the logins work." "Me. Oh, sorry, family-only plan. You said I'm not family anymore, remember?" Then I muted him. The next morning, I woke up to chaos. Apparently, Ryan's wife had tried to play their morning news show, couldn't connect, and threw a tantrum loud enough for the neighbors to hear. He'd been calling Mom and Dad all morning, ranting about me, cutting him off. I didn't respond. I made pancakes with Ethan, watered my plants, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Later that day, Dad called again. "Can we talk?" he said, his voice calmer this time. "Sure," he sighed. "You two need to work this out. He's family." "Family doesn't use you like an ATM, Dad," I said softly. "And they don't mock you when you set boundaries." "I know," he said after a pause. "But he's still your brother," I nodded. "Yeah, and I still love him, but I'm done being his backup plan." There was silence on the line. Then, quietly, Dad said something I never expected to hear. "Maybe you're right." And for the first time in a long time, I felt like someone finally saw the truth. That night, as I sat on the couch with Ethan, I realized this wasn't revenge anymore. It was relief. The kind that comes from finally standing up, not yelling, not fighting, just refusing to be taken advantage of. But the story wasn't over yet, because the next morning, there was a knock on my door. And when I opened it, Ryan was standing there, holding a paper bag and looking different. When I opened the door, Ryan stood there awkwardly, shifting from one foot to the other, holding a brown paper bag like it contained something fragile. Or maybe shame. His eyes darted up, then down again. "Can we talk?" he muttered. I glanced over his shoulder. His car was parked halfway on the curb, hazard lights still blinking. He hadn't even turned them off. He was nervous. I stepped aside. "Sure." He walked in, hesitating at the doorway like he wasn't sure he was welcome. For once, I didn't rush to make him comfortable. I didn't offer coffee. I didn't fill the silence. I just waited. Finally, he said, "Look, I didn't mean for things to get so ugly." I folded my arms. "Ugly started when you mocked me for setting boundaries. It didn't begin with the transfer." He winced, nodding slightly. "Yeah, I guess I pushed it too far." "Guess?" He sighed and dropped onto the couch. "All right, fine. I know I did. I was being an ass. The money thing. I was going through a rough patch and didn't want to admit it. But at dinner, I shouldn't have joked like that." "You didn't just joke," I said quietly. "You embarrassed me. And then you laughed about it." He nodded again, shame creeping into his expression. "Yeah, you're right." There was a pause. Not the awkward kind, but the kind that feels like something shifting in the air. Finally, he placed the brown bag on the table and pushed it toward me. "Here," he said. I frowned. "What's this?" "Open it." Inside was a small box. I recognized the logo immediately. The same jewelry store we used to walk past as kids. The one with the shiny watches we both swore we'd own someday. I opened the lid. Inside was his new watch, the one he'd bragged about at dinner. I looked up at him. He held up both hands. "Before you say anything, I sold it." "What?" "I sold it yesterday," he said. "Got about $800 for it. I figured I owed you $5. The rest is for interest, and maybe an apology." For a moment, I didn't know what to say. He continued. "You know, I didn't realize how much I'd taken from you until everyone started texting me like I was the victim. I reread the group chat last night. You didn't even defend yourself. You just told the truth." "That's all I ever did," I said quietly. He looked down, fidgeting with his hands. "I know. And you were right to cut me off from everything. The Wi-Fi thing, though, brutal touch." I smiled faintly. "Fair is fair," he chuckled. "Yeah, I deserved that one." There was another long silence before he said, "I've been thinking about what Dad said. About family. He's wrong, you know. Family doesn't mean endless forgiveness. Sometimes it means letting someone face themselves." That surprised me. I just stared at him, seeing a side of my brother I hadn't seen in years. He finally stood up. "I know this doesn't fix everything, but I'm going to try to do better. Not because you called me out, but because you stopped protecting me from myself." He walked to the door, paused, then turned back. "And, thanks for not pressing charges for the emotional damage." I laughed. "You'd never afford the settlement." He grinned. A real grin this time. "Yeah, probably not." Then he was gone. When I closed the door, I just stood there, looking at the bag on the table. It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about finally being seen. About someone realizing that kindness isn't weakness, and boundaries aren't cruelty. I sat down, opened my notebook, and jotted a single line at the top of the page. "Peace costs less when you stop paying for everyone else's comfort." That night, I made dinner, pasta with homemade sauce, and for the first time in a long while I didn't check my phone once. No guilt, no tension, no unpaid emotional debt hanging over me. Just quiet. A few days later, the family group chat started buzzing again. Mom shared a photo of everyone at Sunday dinner. All smiles, same old chaos. Then she added, "Ryan's making his famous ribs next week. You both coming?" I stared at it for a moment. Then typed, "We'll see." And that was enough. Because this time I got to decide when, or if, I showed up.